You already know the story. QWERTY wasn't designed to slow you down, and it wasn't designed to stop typewriter arms from jamming. That myth got busted years ago. A 2011 paper out of Kyoto University proved it was really built for Morse code telegraph operators, not typists. Fine, case closed. Except it isn't, because here's the part almost nobody tells you. Once we knew the good reason for QWERTY didn't apply to a single typist alive today, we still didn't change it. Not in 1930, not in 1990, not now. 96% of the world is still typing on a layout built to solve a problem that no longer exists. For a machine none of us have touched. This isn't a video about why QWERTY was invented. It's about why a design everyone agrees is a fossil never got buried. Quick version, because you deserve the real one. Telegraph operators transcribing American Morse code kept confusing the letter Z with the two-letter pair SE. They sound almost identical in dots and dashes. So, operators learned to hover, unsure, until the next letter resolved the ambiguity. Christopher Latham Scholl's solution was simple. Put S, E, and Z close together on the keyboard, so the correction was one flick away, not a hand-crossing scramble. That's QWERTY's real origin story. A layout optimized for fixing telegraph typos, not for writing English. The It Stops Jamming version is, according to the researchers who dug through the patents, a nonsense legend that stuck because it's a better story than the truth. Here's the question nobody answers. Telegraph offices closed. Typewriters disappeared. So why is that 19th century fix for a 19th century problem still under your fingers right now? The answer isn't nostalgia. It's economics, and it has a name. In 1985, economist Paul David published a paper called Clio and the Economics of QWERTY, and he pinned the blame on three forces working together. First, technical interrelatedness. The keyboard wasn't just hardware, it was hardware plus a typist-trained muscle memory, and you couldn't upgrade one without breaking the other. Second, economies of scale. Every QWERTY machine sold made the next one cheaper to build and easier to standardize, which made switching layouts more expensive with every year that passed. Third, and this is the one that actually sealed it, quasi-irreversible investment. Once a typist had spent months training their fingers on QWERTY, ripping that up and starting over was a real expensive loss. Nobody wanted to eat that cost voluntarily. Then, in 1893, the mechanism that made it permanent, Remington and a handful of rival typewriter makers merged into a single trust, the Union Typewriter Company, and QWERTY became the industry's de facto standard overnight. Remington didn't stop there. They ran typing schools, training new typists on QWERTY store for a fee. Employers wanted trained staff. Trained staff meant QWERTY staff. QWERTY staff meant employers needed QWERTY machines. The loop closed itself, and nobody inside it had a reason to be the one who broke it. That's path dependency. Not the best idea wins, but the first idea to get everyone financially trapped wins. So here's where most videos stop. QWERTY is a trap, and somewhere out there is a better keyboard we tragically ignored, the Dvorak layout. Satisfying story. Also, it turns out mostly wrong. Dvorak's early boosters claimed it cut finger travel by 37%, and then just assumed 37% less travel meant 37% faster typing. It doesn't. Typing isn't one finger taking a slow, solo road trip across the keys. It's 10 fingers moving at once. That 37% number measured the wrong thing entirely. When researchers actually modeled skilled typing in 1982, the real advantage for Dvorak came out to 5.4%. When a later study timed 8 real typists, ranging from 45 to 81 words per minute, switching between both layouts, the average edge for Dvorak was just 4%. Only the single fastest typist in the study, already typing at 81 words per minute, saw a real jump, about 10%. In other words, Dvorak's advantage is real, but it's small, and it barely shows up unless you're already one of the fastest typists alive. Now, put that next to the cost. Retraining a working typist onto Dvorak took an estimated 100 hours spread over weeks. A 4% speed gain never had a chance of paying that back. QWERTY didn't beat Dvorak because it was better. It beat Dvorak because Dvorak's upside wasn't big enough to break the law. This exact pattern, a genuinely excellent piece of engineering losing to whatever's already standard, didn't stop with typewriters. It happened again inside Apple, and almost nobody talks about it. In the early 1990s, Apple sold a keyboard collectors now called the best keyboard the company ever made, the Apple Extended Keyboard, codenamed Saratoga. It shipped with genuine Alps electric mechanical switches, individually rated for 10 to 15 million keystrokes, a 15 to 25-year lifespan, under warranty for a satisfying clickety-clack on every single key. No height adjustment mechanism, which sounds like a downgrade until you realize it's also one less thing to break. Just 4 screws holding a genuinely sturdy machine together. Its successor, codenamed Nimitz, sold from October 1990 until January 1999. And here's the quiet tragedy. It looked identical, but Apple started cutting corners inside the case. Early units still used real Alps switches. Later ones shipped with cheaper Mitsumi mechanisms instead. And there was no way to tell which one you were buying without literally cracking it open. The height adjustment feature Saratoga skipped got added back on Nimitz. Except it was crude and prone to locking up. And instead of 4 screws, Nimitz was held together by a single screw and a handful of plastic snaps. Great for a factory assembly line. Miserable for anyone trying to clean it 30 years later. Both keyboards predate USB entirely. They connect through Apple's old ADB port, which means today, using one means hunting down a discontinued adapter just to plug it into a modern Mac, and people do. There's a small, dedicated world of collectors, keeping 30-year-old Apple keyboards alive, specifically because nothing made since has matched that switch quality. Proof that well-engineered. So did anyone actually try to fix any of this? Yes, just not the part you'd expect. As far back as the 1920s, researchers proposed the obvious physical fix: split the keyboard in half and angle the 2 sides inward to stop forcing your wrist into an unnatural straight line. A researcher named Krieger picked up that thread seriously in the 1960s and published his findings in 1972, kicking off roughly 35 years of ergonomics research. By the early 90s, split keyboards finally reached store shelves, Cherry's Ergo Plus among them, though it only survived about 4 years on the market. Microsoft's Natural Keyboard, which launched alongside Windows 95, fared much better and is still the shape most ergonomic keyboards borrow from today. To be fair to the research, nobody in these sources hands you a clean statistic like X% of typists develop RSI. What shows up again and again is vaguer and more honest. Arm strain, musculoskeletal outcomes, discomfort that's real but resistant to a tidy number. Even something as small as the placement of the control key has its own nickname among programmers, Emacs Pinky, from years of overextending your weakest finger to reach a key that never should have been there in the first place. And that's the real ending. We split the keyboard, We angled it. We padded the wrists. What we never did, not once, in over a century, is touch the actual letters. S, E, and Z are still sitting right next to each other, arranged for a telegraph operator who's been dead for 100 years, on a machine none of us have ever owned. We didn't fix the mistake. We just built increasingly comfortable ways to keep making it.